Well, thank you for sitting down with me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I want to start real small. Do you remember Whitefish First Nations outside of Edmonton? So they have a business called Good Fish Coveralls, and they supply all the coveralls for Syncrude and Suncor. They talked about when you went there, one of the members drove you around, and he got emotional, and he said that your contribution to their First Nation, big and small, changed the lives of the entire community. So they wanted me to give you this. We can want to just see this. So this is like a grocery bag, but it's actually made out of coveralls.
Oh, good. Thank you very much.
Do you remember Eric Newell from Syncrude, the CEO of Syncrude?
I don't. I remember the name, but I've not seen him for generations.
So I talked to him today because this issue is we want to acknowledge your contribution to the oil sands, and he suggested that, I don't know if we'll name this that or not, but he said call Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, said tell him he's the godfather of oil sands. And he talked very, very, very highly about the billions in investments came because you had a kind of a deal where you sort of opened up kind of a MOU.
What I recall, it's a long time ago. I was president of the Treasury Board, and the private sector was closing. They had started the Syncrude project, I guess. And the private sector quit. And they were to close down. I don't remember the figures, but suppose that the price of oil was $20, the cost was $40. So they said, we cannot carry on. And we had to make a decision, should we let them close down or not? So we talked with the Alberta government, and the Minister of Energy was Don MacDonald, and was the president of the Treasury Board. And we talked with the government of Ontario too, Bill Davis. And Peter Lloyd, Bill Davis, Don MacDonald, and I met in Winnipeg to discuss what can be done to maintain the industry. The private sector was running away. So there was to be a contribution by government of Ontario and the federal government. And the discussion was difficult. I moved around during the whole day from the room of Lloyd to the room of MacDonald and back and forth and Bill Davis and so on. And we had a deal at the end of the day. I think that if we had not been there, the oil sand would not have started at that time. And that is what happened when I joined Bennett Jones, when I quit politics. You can find that out. Peter Lloyd received me at the door of the building, and he told the press that story that I just told you. And he claimed that I played a very important role that day.
They actually have a part of Syncrude named after you called Chrétien Point.
Yeah.
And when I talked to Eric Newell, he didn't mince words. He candidly said that if it wasn't for what you did, the Syncrude would not be what it is now, and none of it would have developed till today. So
thank you very much. I'm happy that somebody remember, because there is not many people in Alberta who knows that. And even when I became Prime Minister, I made, with McClellan, we gave some great incentives again. And for me, it was important. I thought that it was the future of not only of Alberta, but of Canada, that we develop the proper fashion, the oil sand of Alberta. And it turned out to be a huge success. For me, always had a weakness for Alberta because my mother is from Alberta. Family is from Alberta. They moved there in 1907. My mom stayed in Quebec, but the rest of the family moved to Alberta. So I knew more about agriculture in the West than I knew about Quebec. So it is part of my family heritage to me, is inclined to have a special interest in the place.
Canada's becoming very patriotic because of the kind of the threat of tariffs with Trump. But how do we spend time, say Quebec and Alberta, working together to build the country so we all prosper and cooperate?
It's what we're doing. Forget about all the complaints. We're doing quite well as a country. but it is the nature of the communication. I started to be involved in public life in 1956. You were not very old.
No, I wasn't born yet.
I know. And so I have watched the news on a daily basis, and I never saw a morning with a big headline. Canada had a good day yesterday. We must have had at least one good day. The news are like that.
Yeah.
You know, good news is not the news. And, it's the nature of the communication,
Yeah.
the pressure on public officials,
Yeah.
because we're electors, we're always attacked. But there are consequences of that and makes life more difficult. But look at the progress we've made. Everybody says it's terrible. Do you think we live in a terrible time in Canada?
No.
Everybody would like to become a Canadian to share our so-called miseries.
How do we work collectively more together to get all of Alberta Canadian energy to market?
But the problem is Trudeau spent $35 billion of money from all Canadians to buy a pipeline between Alberta and Vancouver
Yeah.
that the private sector did not want to operate.
That's
Never receive a thank you for that. And it is virtually now, apparently it's used completely now, but it was not completely used before.
Yeah.
So we never produced more oil in Alberta than we do today.
Do you think it was simultaneously though? Like I agree with you, and I actually give full credit for that pipeline goes to Rachel Notley and Justin Trudeau. I really truly believe that, and they're not conservative. But do you think part of it, the problem too, was a lot of the rhetoric against Alberta from that didn't happen when you were Prime Minister. It didn't happen with Martin, but you had a lot of people within the Liberal Party. It's not happening with Carney. It's actually done a 180 where you feel Carney's supporting Alberta, at least publicly. Was that part of the problem, that it seemed like they wanted to shut down the oil and gas, or at least they said they did?
There was a problem, not the Liberals. There was a real preoccupation with climate change in the public. And it was around the globe. The attack was the oil production by everybody around the globe. And the oil sands, it is polluting a lot. And they were claiming that it was a big problem for climate change. It was not the Liberals from the East. It was the global discussion. It was not against Alberta. It was the people who did not want the people to use oil anymore around the globe. I remember in the 70s, what was the problem we had with oil? All the experts were predicting that by year 2000, there will be no more oil available around the globe. And it is one reason why we collectively, we decided to keep as much oil as possible for Canadians. We made a deal with Alberta. Trudeau and Peter Lloyd drank champagne over that accord. It was the accord of the day. The oil prices changed after that. So it was not applicable anymore. And then they start to blame the feds. But, what they call the energy program was an agreement between us and Alberta, just like the tar sand was an agreement between us and Alberta. In that case, we had the help of Bill Davis from Ontario. So things evolved. And as I say, and the people love to blame somebody else, and some people believe it. But it's not miserable in Alberta.
No. Yeah.
You have no provincial sales tax. Your corporate tax is lower than anywhere else in Canada. So, you have to look at the red. Of course, everybody would like to have more money. Everybody would like to have a better deal. I used to make a joke. Even my wife wanted to have a better deal. And, no, I'm not joking.
No, I know.
It is natural.
Yeah.
But we have to be realistic too. Alberta is doing very well. Canada is doing relatively very well. And despite of the big problem of Trump, we still do quite well. But it's never perfect. We have to keep working to make it better.
I got a question for you, because there's a lot of talk about transportation of oil and gas. So there's pipelines, and to your point, that the Trans Mountain pipeline was amazing. What other ways can we ship? I'm hearing that rail is drastically improved, and there's ways to ship oil by rail, which is comparable to what you would do on a pipeline. What other suggestions do you think we could do?
But I'm not an expert, but the kind of oil you produce in Alberta, the heavy oil, it's not very liquid. So you have to make it liquid.
Yeah.
And my view, it's to transport that by rail, it's not a lot more expensive than if you had a pipeline. And even if it's a bit more expensive, it might be 2-3% more, 5%. It's not the end of the world. It's better to use a rail and to leave the oil in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know,
And that creates jobs, and that creates...
and if it is a pipeline, it's there, does not create a damn job. When it is on the ground, it's there for 50 years. If it is by rail, there is people working on the rail and on the cars, and and probably a lot more job being created that way. And nobody will take that into account when they will look at the figures. So for me, I'm still working on these problems.
Why do you keep working?
No, I'm working because I love it. And if you use your brain, the body follows.
Mm.
The worst thing that you can hope in life is to have your retirement and buy a rocking chair. You will not last 6 months doing that. So you have to keep busy. And for me, I'm busy. I hope I will still be able to play golf this summer. And last summer I was playing my age for once in a while, and it's easier when you're getting older. And, it is, I want to die standing.
What do you feel was you're most proud of in your role as Prime Minister?
For me, the past is the past. I've been a Canadian, very proud of that. I'm from Quebec. A lot of people hated my guts. And some people were insulting me because I was too much of a Canadian. But I never deviated. And today it's very pleasant. I was in a restaurant one day, and not long ago, and a guy was drunk and loud, and he said, "Hi, God damn it, Chrétien's here. I never voted for you." Oh, I said, "You have the right to make mistakes, sir, in life. Everybody make mistakes." He said, "I never voted for you because I'm a separatist." But I said, "You have the right to." It's a political opinion that I don't share, but we're in a democracy, freedom of speech, so you have the right to advocate that, but I'm completely opposed to it. But I want to tell you something. You are a goddamn good Prime Minister for Canada. He never voted for me. But I was not on the fence. My views, I was not trying to please everybody all the time. You have to trust the judgment of the people. When you have a conviction, you go with it. And if you're honest and sincere, probably the people will back you up. And the worst that can happen to you is to lose the election. And if that happens, your wife is very happy. So it's not that bad.
No, you get to spend more time. Yeah.
So in Canada, I said that all my life. We're the best. We're best positioned than anybody else, and we have to treat everybody with respect. For me, I had very good relation with everybody, but I was not bragging. I was discreet, and people seemed to appreciate that. Was not there to score political points in Canada. I was there to help to solve and participate to solve a global problem. And I always did what I thought, and as this big advice I'd received that was so important for me. I mentioned to you one of my supporter, a blue collar, Pierre Toulouse, said of him that he was the blue collar, the most intelligent he ever met, who said to me, "Jean, trust the judgment of the people and do it. Do what you have to do. And if you, as I said, honest and sincere, damn the torpedo, do it." And I did it. And if people respect me today, I'm happy. I'm lucky. to hear that before I go. But I'm not about to go. I had lost a sister. She was 100, and a brother 99. So you're not about to get rid of me.